Ohio gozaimasu. So I am covering a lot of territory with this video because it's been a little while since I did an update. So last time that I checked in with everybody, we were in the Shiga Kogen resort. At that time, we had got shut out of skiing other than like 4 or 5 runs due to a storm coming in. So we'll pick up where we left off there. So still staying at the Okushiga Kogen resort. We woke up the next morning and were able to actually ski, which was great. The snow was actually quite nice, but we got what I'm going to now coin as Okushiga Kogen, which is that if you're staying at the Okushiga Kogen resort, which has the highest elevation, but is also the furthest away, that if anything happens to their gondola, you basically are stranded. So we wound up getting stranded skiing further away from Okushiga Kogen because their gondola broke down, and it literally broke down maybe like 4 gondola passenger loads before us. So we wound up having to stand and wait for a bus to actually get us back to our hotel on our checkout time. We had arranged for a late checkout, so that was the nice part about it. But we went ahead, got back to the hotel by bus. We did one more run because we didn't want our last run in the Shiga Kogen area to be disappointment. So we took one more run. We did the race course run, which I really enjoyed. It's a green run, but it's just fun because you can like speed around it. And again, there was like some nice fresh snow that was fun to ski on. Packed up everything and got ready to drive. And our plan from going from the Okushiga Kogen hotel was to go ahead and visit the snow monkeys because you got to do it. And we're literally driving right by them. So we got super lucky with our timing. I think we were getting to the snow monkeys around 2:00. And I had heard just nightmare stories. They've become so much more popular lately, and obviously Japan has a lot of over tourism happening. So I was really anxious about how bad the crowds were going to be there. But I think we got lucky because we were going on a weekday. We were going near the end of the day, so the monkey park closes at 4. So we were fortunate to be getting there a little bit late. There was still like busloads of people that got there, but our timing just happened to be perfect because we didn't see like a bunch of people like walking into the park until we were leaving. So that was really nice. And it was also like snowing a little bit. But basically you park, we were able to find parking, and the parking is extremely limited. So we were very fortunate to have gotten a nice, easy spot right at the entrance to the monkey park. So the walk itself from the parking, no matter what, is probably 20 to 30 minutes. Tim and I did it in 20 minutes. They advertise it as being like a 30-minute walk. So I'm sure if you're walking slow or have like mobility or just can't walk that fast, then it's going to be a little bit more. They do call it a hike, but it is mostly flat because it had been snowing and raining. It was muddy, so be prepared for that.
Thanks for documenting the occasion.
So at the very end of the walk there, you come across a bunch of steps that go up to where the actual monkey park is, but you also see a ryokan that I think is like 150 years old and actually plays a really key part in why the monkeys are even there to begin with. But that's for another story. But you go up the stairs and then walk a little bit further, and then you come to an opening, and that's where you see all the monkeys. And this is definitely not a zoo. It's not a zoo-like environment. These monkeys can come right up to you. One time in Bali, we saw monkeys that were like quite aggressive with humans, but here they weren't really, although we did see one get a little aggressive with a human. But I mean, they will walk right up to you, but you just see them bathing in the onsen water, and it's really was a cool experience, totally worth doing. All said and done, I think the whole experience was just like about an hour long. So it's not super time consuming either. So we did our walk back after the monkeys, and we had treated ourselves to some ice cream at the very end, and then continued our drive to Nozawa Onsen. And so that was only about 45 minutes to an hour from the monkey park, so not too bad of a drive. We had found accommodation, so we planned this trip really late, and so we were not spoiled for choice as far as the places that we were staying at. So actually in Nozawa Onsen, the only place that we could find on the dates that we wanted to travel was this like little apartment. So it was more like an Airbnb setup than a hotel. But it was right above a Swiss bakery, and it just couldn't have been a more delightful experience. It was the location itself is super close to the slope, so I would 100% go back there. We were in their studio accommodation, so it was very compact, but the space was just so well done and well thought out. The most comfortable bed to this point in our travel that we had there, so that was great. It was a queen size bed. We got to sleep next to each other. You guys might see in the background that it's very common to have two beds in Japan. So a his and a hers, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so they just had one queen size bed there instead of like two fulls, which seems to be more standard. And we had kind of just crashed for that night. So I did wind up getting sick, and I started feeling something come on at the last day in Shiga Kogen. And then by the drive after the monkeys and the ice cream and the drive to Nozawa Onsen, my throat just was like on fire. I looked in the mirror and could see that it was like not covered, but definitely very well-defined white spots in the back of my throat. So characteristics of strep throat. Fortunately, we travel with amoxicillin, so I was able to start that straight away. But just crashed that night. I was tired, but before crashing, did have to go to the pharmacy because I wanted to see if they had throat lozenges. And the Hugo, who checked us into the Akari House apartments, kind of pointed out where the pharmacy and the grocery stores were in the town. It's a very walkable town, kind of reminding me a little bit of Zermatt, where even though there are cars in Nozawa Onsen, it's just like most people are walking around because it's way easier to move around by foot. So we walked to the pharmacy. I got some throat spray that was not at all what I was hoping for it to be. I was hoping for it to be like lidocaine spray, but instead it was iodine, which again is very like congruent with the Japanese culture. So it's a throat disinfecting spray so that it keeps others around me. It reduces the bacterial or viral load in my throat so that the people around me are less likely to get sick. So it didn't really help me out, but I still used it consistently because it had some menthol that was nice, but a new experience, not something you get in Japan or in the United States. So there's always something that you learn in every experience, and that was one of the things that I learned about being sick in Japan. So we kind of crashed out for that night. We woke up the next morning, we went skiing, and it was just the most beautiful day to go skiing. It had snowed the night before when we were walking through the town to go to the pharmacy. I feel so fortunate about it now because the big snowflakes were coming down. We got to see Nozawa Onsen probably in like the most romantic light possible, which was really nice. And that led to like a spectacular morning. The trees were all covered in white and just made it so nice. The Akari House apartments were super close to a chairlift. And so we were able to walk just from our accommodations to the chairlift. There's coin lockers there. We left our shoes there, booted up there, and then went up the lift. It couldn't have been more convenient, and had just a great day. Skiing, we got lost a few times. We couldn't figure out how to get to certain places, but I really liked Nozawa Onsen because I'm not somebody that's like passionate about skiing, but I love everything that skiing allows me to do. So it allows me to get out and be active. It allows me to experience kind of like different natural settings that you wouldn't get to see if you're sitting in a lodge. So we were able to find a mid-mountain, or Tim was able to find a mid-mountain area that was privately owned. So it's not something that's owned by the ski resort, but very good like Japanese food that we were able to get there. I got ramen, and we got the best seat in the house, right next to a big window, so we could just see this panoramic view of the Nozawa Onsen area. Had a beautiful lunch and skied down and kind of called it a day as far as skiing goes. But then we went out adventuring by foot after showering and resting up a little bit. And that's where we were able to see the temple. And one of the things that temple there is famous for is their trees. And there are just these big, gorgeous trees. And I saw later on that the trees are estimated to be around 300 years old, but they really were so gorgeous and so spectacular. We were going to try to go to a restaurant, and quickly learned that reservations were a must because the town was just so busy. So we got shut out of dinner options for what we were wanting to do. But the silver lining is that we were able to go to the Nozawa Onsen, or the Nozawa distillery, which is a gin distillery. Tim loves gin. And so we were able to go there and do a tasting, and I really loved the shiso gin that they have at Nozawa distillery. So I kind of regret not getting a bottle because we didn't get a bottle there, but maybe we'll come across some more later on in our travels. But really fun tasting, and then just kind of wandered our way back down to town, and were able to find a really good restaurant that we had dinner at. I need to go get my notes. I have my notes now so I can remember the names of things. So we had got shut out of dinner at the places like the izakayas that we wanted to go to. So we wound up finding a really good restaurant that we went to called Tanuki Cafe, and had a great dinner there, and then kind of just called it a night again. But we had decided after doing a specific run that day that we definitely wanted to try to ski the next morning, which we weren't really thinking we were going to want to do. So there was this run that takes you from kind of like the very top of the mountain. They call it the Skyline View Run. It was so spectacular. So we said we have to do it again, if only for that, because the other thing about skiing in Japan is that your lift tickets aren't like the crazy ridiculous lift tickets in the United States where they're like $200 or $250 a day. The lift tickets are like $40. So very inexpensive. So we're just like, even if we just go to ski Skyline View Run one more time, it would be worth it. So we woke up the next morning and decided to do that. One thing I forgot to tell you guys about is the previous day we woke up, again, I wasn't feeling great. And the thing about Nozawa Onsen is that it's really famous for their onsens. They have these 12 or 13 public onsens that are like located throughout the town. And even when our host checked us in, he's just like, you guys have to do it. It's like just a 2-second walk away from one of the onsens. Is a 2-second walk from the building, so you have to do that. So we woke up at 6 a.m. and walked to the public onsen. And Tim and I are not unfamiliar with onsening. It's one of my favorite things to do in Japan. But a public onsen was like I've been to like public onsens even before, but these were completely different, game changing, and in an interesting way. I'm not going to say it was in a bad way, but it was unfamiliar to what I had experienced before in the past. So you basically walk in, you don't pay any money or anything. They had told us that there were no amenities there, so like shampoo and soap and stuff like that, which is understandable if it's free and it's a public onsen. So you have a little basket that you take from the hotel that has all those things in it. So you take your little basket, you're in your, clothes, you're walking down to the onsen in the morning, and I walk in and there's 2 Japanese women that are already using the onsen. But what was completely different is that there was just no shower stalls, which normally there's like these little sitting shower stalls. There was no sitting shower stalls. All that there were buckets and then a cold water tap. And so what I picked up on very quickly is that you sit on the floor and you take hot water from the onsen bath into your plastic bucket, and then you put a little bit of cold water in there to make it the right temperature, and you use that for washing. Very interesting. I mean, I wasn't treating that as my shower. I was like, I'm not washing my hair. But you kind of have to go through the motions to show that you're being like polite and respectful and that your body is clean before getting in the actual onsen, which is what I wanted to do. So I went through the motions of like cleansing my body and then got in the onsen. It was really funny because I tried to like tiptoe into the onsen, and one of the Japanese women is just like, no, 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 no. Like, it was the very hot side. There was two sides, and I was trying to like get into the hottest side, and so I came over to the other side. And it's all extra funny because you're completely naked, which we are not as comfortable with in the United States, but you easily get comfortable. You forget the fact that everybody's naked and running around in their birthday suits, should you say. So anyways, that's my onsen story. So we got done with the public onsen and then went skiing, and then fast forward back to the next day. So we woke up the next morning, we decided to go skiing just to get that skyline run, and that's when we had the experience of running into this woman with her 3 gorgeous huskies, and one of them was injured. And at first we just thought that like, oh, this is so cool, because there seems to be like a culture there of people take their dogs skiing or snowboarding, and it's just their way of walking, and they're dogs that are meant to be in the snow. They're dogs that love to run, you know, in the snow. So that wasn't surprising, but we thought like, oh, it's 3. And then she was piggybacking one of the 3, and we came up to her like right as somebody else was putting the dog on the piggyback. And so we were riding down kind of behind her, and then we saw her kind of like collapse and fall down, and the dog fell off. And then that's when she kind of asked for help. We do not speak Japanese. She did not speak English, but you can, you know, there's universal understanding. And what she was needing help with was putting her dog Ray back up on Tim. And so his little front paws were bleeding. And at that point we were in for it. We were going to see her way all the way down this very long run. And so we would just trail behind her, and then her and Ray would collapse to the ground. I'm sure she's just collapsing in exhaustion. And then we would give it a few minutes, and then she'd say she was ready again. And then Tim would put Ray back up on her back, and probably did that like 5 times before we got to the base. But really just incredible experience. The woman's love for the dog was so amazing, and you just couldn't help but feel for like her and the dogs, and just the whole situation. So very memorable story. From there we finished skiing the rest of the day. We just did a little bit more, a few hours more, and then we Tim had planned that we would go to another onsen, but it was going to be a paid onsen, so it actually had the amenities, so like the shower, the gels, the shampoo, so we could shower up before going into Nagano. We spent one night in Nagano City itself, at like a business hotel, and the whole purpose of it was just to do laundry, because we knew by this point that we would be needing to clean up our clothes before going any further in the trip. And it was a much needed relaxing option. The hotel was incredibly inexpensive, so I booked a suite, and really just needed that time to relax. We did go to a great sushi dinner that was wonderful. The sushi chef behind the counter was engaging with us. We found out he is a baseball fan by giving him some tamiyagi, but then went back that night and fell asleep. Tim will say that the story is that I was really grumpy, and I probably was, because I couldn't breathe out of my nose. And in Japan, you're not supposed to blow your nose. It's considered really rude. And like you can only walk away from a counter so many times before you're like, I just want to be home where I can just blow my nose whenever I want. So I was a little grumpy. In hindsight, I was a little grumpy, but that was that night. We got finished with that. Oh, one thing I forgot is we went to this really great eel restaurant in Nozawa Onsen after our paid onsen. That was great. We did not have reservations, and again, you should have reservations for everything. But we came in and we asked, you know, if they had a futatsu seki desu ka. That's like, we're 2 people. Do you have a seat for 2? And they said yes, and they kind of like pointed over, and we looked and we found out it was like floor seating. And so Tim just doesn't fit in Japan, though. He's like a large person, deceptively huge. Until you put him into an area that looks like reasonable, and then you see him get in there and he just doesn't fit at all, like then you're like, oh my god, he is giant. So we ate our unagi eel, which was delicious, and chicken meal, which was great at Nozawa Onsen, and then went to Nagano. We woke up the next day and decided to kind of do the things that Nagano City itself is known for. So one of the things is a winery, and so it is called, I wrote it down, the Nishiman Yoshinoya winery. I think it's been there for like 350 years, and we did our distillery. We did a sake tasting, which was great. We had the greatest host that like took us through the tasting of all the sakes. We brought some bottles home with us. And then after that, we walked to the Zenkoji temple, which is a Buddhist temple in Nagano, and it was absolutely gorgeous. The gate was the first thing that we came along to, and it was so like impressive. And then you see the temple, and it's really quite amazing. The legend goes that it's the oldest Buddhist statue in Japan is housed inside of the Zenkoji temple. But it's so precious that nobody ever really sees it. They don't bring it out that often. They bring out replicas, I think, once a year for people to actually view, but not the actual, precious statue itself. So we did that. And then we got to drive to Nagano and check into where we're at right now, which is a really funny place. Again, this was like the only place that had reservations for the time that we needed to be here. It's a restaurant that is French, or not a restaurant, a hotel that's like French themed. It has a French restaurant with it. But it's just really funny because they're doing French, like kind of like Disneyland style. It kind of reminds you of like shabby chic French. But it's been completely comfortable. Again, the 2 beds that you see behind me, great location in town. We walked to 2 amazing izakayas the first 2 nights, and we did a more traditional restaurant attached to a hotel last night. So it's been very good. So now we're going to drive back to Nagano, drop off our car, and start the final leg of our trip, which is just 4 more nights here in Japan. And that's it.